I guess I got started on the Christmas journey when I was 6 years old. You know how in the family, everybody's sitting around looking at the Christmas TV or singing Christmas carols. Well, I drank too much hot chocolate before I went to bed. And as you might imagine, I had to get up and take care of what nature does with too much hot chocolate. And as I was going back to bed, it was just a few minutes after midnight, I felt the most incredible magic coming out of our living room. And I smelled cinnamon and hot chocolate. I poked my head around, and just as I looked into the living room, all of the magic blew out of the room like it was on a soft breeze. And then I heard the door close. I was really suspicious over what happened. So I looked into the living room, and there were all of the gifts from Santa Claus. I had come that close to catching him delivering presents in our house. Well, I got to thinking about this all the next year. I wanted to catch Santa. How many of y'all have ever thought about catching Santa? How many of you have actually tried to catch Santa? I tried several times. Well, when I was 7 years old, I hid behind a great big chair in the corner of the living room. And just as soon as I felt that magic and smelled that cinnamon and hot chocolate, I stood up and I heard the door close. But I looked down and I had a cookie in my hand. Well, I got to understand thinking about this and understood Santa lands his sleigh on the roof, but we didn't have a chimney and we had a very small roof. So I knew he wasn't landing it on our roof, and we lived on a cul-de-sac. So I got to thinking about this, being a very smart 8-year-old. I hid behind a bush in the front yard, and I waited until I felt that magic come into the cul-de-sac. And I heard bells ringing. And then I heard doors closing real quick around the circle in our cul-de-sac. And then I heard the bells ring, and that scent of chocolate and cinnamon blew away like on a breeze. I looked down and I had a cookie in my hand. I had to figure out a way to catch Santa in the act. Well, by the time I was 9 years old, all the kids in school were trying to tell me that Santa was not real. There's all sorts of rumors out there that Santa's not real, but I knew he was real. I had seen him. Well, I'd almost seen him. I'd been there when he was there. So I came up with a plan to catch Santa and get proof that Santa was real. So here I hid behind the bush again, and just as soon as I heard those jingle bells, I went running just as hard as I could, straight into the middle of the cul-de-sac with my hands out in front of me. And I slammed into the sleigh, and there was a flash of light. And then I saw an elf sitting up on the seat of the sleigh, and another elf was adjusting the harness on the reindeer. And just about that time, I saw Santa coming out of the Jernigan's house at the end of the cul-de-sac. I had to get proof, so I dove underneath all of the bags in the back of the sleigh. I want you to know, for hours, Santa went and visited houses. And every time he would come to a house, he would look. And if he wasn't on the roof and they had a chimney, he had to land down on the street for safety. He would touch his nose, and there was a gold stream of magic went up to the chimney. And within a second or two, it would bounce towards another chimney and another chimney. And after he'd been to all the houses, it would come back to the sleigh, and we'd be gone in a flash again. If they didn't have a chimney, our house didn't have a chimney. How many of your houses don't have chimneys? Santa would walk up to the door and gently touch it, and the door would open. Santa has a key resting in his heart that as long as he's going into your house for something good, the door will open to his touch. I have a copy of that key right here. But after several hours of this stopping and starting and going and delivering presents, my stomach started to growl. I had been so excited about seeing Santa Claus and getting proof that I didn't eat a real good dinner. And I was some kind of hungry. And then when the next stop, both of the elves got out of the sleigh and were giving the reindeer carrots to help keep them going. And they left a big plate of cookies right there on the seat of the sleigh. Man, I grabbed me a bunch of cookies and dove back underneath those bags. And that kept me going for a while. And then the sleigh stopped somewhere in a shopping center. I have no idea where it was. And within seconds, another sleigh pulled up beside me. And Santa and two elves got out of the sleigh we were in and got in this other sleigh. The sleigh he had been in, all the toys were gone. It was just empty bags in the back of the sleigh. And the new sleigh was full of bags of toys. Well, they were gone before I could figure out what to do. And I didn't know what to do, so I just held still. And just felt the sleigh land again. And then they pulled the bags off, and this cute little elf stood about yay tall, nice round beard, and a very stern face.
Okay? Santa says if you want to go home, you've got to help load toy bags. Now, my name's Hector, and I'm going to be your supervisor. Did you get enough cookies to eat? Are you ready to go to work? I didn't know what to do, so I told him, I'm ready to go to work.
Well, he led me into a barn. Hundreds of thousands of toys filled this barn from everywhere. And he put a list in my hand and he gave me a red bag.
Go fill it.
It didn't take any time at all to figure out where the toys were. That barn is so well organized. Toys from everywhere in that barn. And it only takes a few minutes just to get all the toys in the bag and put it back in the sleigh. Or actually, you give it to a coordinator and she puts it in the sleigh. And it all worked. We did this for probably 10 or 12 hours, it seemed like. And I went to see Hector as the sleigh was filled and there weren't any more lists. I've got to call my folks. They're going to be worried about me.
No, don't worry about them. They're still asleep.
Whoa. But he took me into a dining hall, 4 times the size of this one, filled with food, and all the elves were on supper break. And the only way I can tell you about how wonderful that food is, everything I ate was delicious. Oh, it was wonderful. It was like the food here tonight. Everything was delicious. Thank you very much. And while I was eating, I met this most wonderful young girl elf. She was just a little younger than I was. Her name was Eileen. And she knew her way around. She showed me where all the best food was, the stuff I hadn't gotten to yet. And then she took me across the street into the reindeer barn, and she introduced me to all the reindeer. There were 8 reindeer out, and there's 48 reindeer all told. 24 ready to fly and 24 in reserve. There's lots of reindeer that make Christmas happen. And then when Santa returned, he would come in, slide in, talk to the elves for just a minute, and in a flash, he was gone again. And then we'd fill his sleigh up, and then that sleigh would be gone, and they'd bring back the first sleigh empty. We did this for days. It seemed like weeks. But the food was good. And Eileen kept company with me, and she showed me all sorts of secrets and tricks about filling the bags and getting good stuff to eat. And when it came to the last trip out, the sleigh was only half full because there's not many stops in the Pacific. There's only a few islands. And we were sitting in the cafeteria drinking some of the best hot chocolate I had ever had. And Santa came over and said, well, are y'all ready to go home now? I said, oh, please, my parents are probably just crazy with worry. Doesn't know. They'll be waking up soon. They're not up yet. I thought he didn't know my parents too well. They sleep sometimes. They don't sleep that long. Well, it was Eileen and another elf and me and Santa in a small sleigh. And we took off and we landed first in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we pulled up to a small house, and as Eileen was about to get out, she first said something to Santa, whispered something in his ear, and then came back, gave me a quick kiss, and went running into the house. And then we headed west towards my house. And it was funny when we stopped. However, on the way, he explained that Eileen was not an elf. That she was a young girl who had caught Santa delivering presents at her house when she was real little. And her biggest dream was to be Santa's helper. So now, every year, Santa stops at her house and waits for her to step into the Christmas second. And then she goes to the North Pole and helps to load bags. When we got to my house, I thanked Santa for the wonderful time, and I went running inside. And you know what? My parents and brothers and sisters were just beginning to wake up. I had been at the North Pole for a week or longer, and I could not miss Christmas morning with my family. But I realized I forgot to get proof from my friends that Santa was real. I had nothing to show them, but that's quite okay. I know